Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Language of Life podcast. The Language of Life podcast is a platform focused on intriguing stories about common life topics such as relationships, finance, and careers, all for the purpose of inspiring and motivating you for success. Ladies and gentlemen, we want you today to prepare yourselves and sit in your tents and look out and have your notepads ready because we have a wonderful guest with us today. Her name is Tulsi Patel. She is a project manager at Cushman and Wakefield. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the podcast platform, Tulsi Patel. Tulsi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time just to come and talk with little Mr. Paul Taylor. Of the Language of Life.
You're the first person I see every morning, so great.
Great. Tulsi, I'm excited about, having you on the podcast, on the platform today. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are watching, please share this page with your friends on the different platforms. We want to use this time to encourage you. Tulsi, again, welcome. We're glad that you're here. I just want you, if you could, just for a few moments, just tell us a little bit about yourself, just briefly.
Yeah. Well, my name is Tulsi Patel. I recently joined the Cushman Wakefield team, and it's been great thus far. I've been in the DMV area for about 7 years now. I've been married for 5 of those years with my husband, and I was in New Jersey prior to this part of my life, so it's definitely been different, but I'm calling it home now. It took me a little while. I was born in Rhode Island, so making the journey down south, it's been great. I'm really looking forward to what else the DMV brings me and how I can grow here.
Well, look, welcome to the DMV, you and your husband. I'm so glad that you're calling this home, and I can say to you, welcome home. Tulsi, you're such an awesome person. Again, it's a pleasure seeing you each day when you come into the workplace. You come in with just a fresh, new attitude, and you just light up the place when you step in the place. You're the life of the party. And so I'm so excited. And I know that is definitely an asset to the kind of work that you do. One of the questions I wanted to ask you in reference to what you do is, how did you get into commercial real estate? Who was it that inspired you to move into this direction in this field of work?
Mm-hmm. I think it really goes back to how I got into interior design. Coming from a background, being Indian, I had that driven into me growing up from my dad. He was very strict and studying with a pretty big focus. I have an older brother, and he was definitely more of the bookworm nerd, and I was the rebel. And the one thing my dad said was, whatever you do whatever's going to make you happy. And for me, when I had to make that decision about what I wanted to do in my career, I decided that it was interior design. And again, coming from a small state in Rhode Island, I wanted nothing to do with being near home. I wanted my freedom. I wanted my growth, the life that I hadn't been able to experience. And as much as I wanted to go across country, I actually ended up in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston, at a small college. And my sophomore year, I really remember we were in the recession in 2008, and they came to us and kind of talked to everyone and was like, interior design and was a great career path, but if you want to make a change, this might be the time. And I, talked to my dad, I talked to my peers, and this was my passion. I definitely stood by what my dad said, and I didn't want to wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm just going to a job, So I stuck through it, and I got through school. Again, the recession hit hard, so it took me a little while to find and get my foot in the door. And once I did, it was amazing. Right after graduation, I was at Home Depot. I was doing it part-time, and I took on that full time. And I was, just a cashier at the beginning, and I moved up to the customer service desk. But I became a better people person than I already was. I learned a lot in the flooring department, the kitchen department. There's electrical and plumbing and all the things that are actually really related to design. I never really looked at it that way. I was just like, oh, I'm struggling. And now I look back and I'm like, I am where I am because of how I started and how I got here. Um, I I got my foot in the door at a furniture store or firm, I guess I would say, in New Jersey. And so that was a pretty big move. I left my family and I was kind of on my own, something that I was really looking forward to. And that was a great experience. I started designing furniture. It was modular furniture. I was working with a local designer in Jersey. We were manufacturing from China, and it was a great opportunity. I was doing a lot of retail and hospitality furniture, and I could feel like, I had progressed enough that there was more to the design world than furniture. I landed a job in New York City, which again was another amazing experience, a pretty large firm. And what I had come from was a very small Russian-owned company. It was very family style and like. And so I felt like I was a number while I was in New York. And again, I was doing something different. I wasn't doing furniture. I started working in the banking studio. So we were retrofitting Chase banks, HSBC banks. And at the time, again, it felt like a different first real job, in the industry. And I started learning a lot more about surveys and ADA and how that really affects everyone. And throughout my college experience, I actually got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So I started understanding, ADA is very important and how these codes do really need to be taken into consideration. So that was another stepping stone. And again, it was very repetitive. I wasn't being able to put out my best creative work because it's a lot of standards and you're really just copying and pasting. At the time, I met my now husband, and him coming back to Jersey wasn't ideal at the time. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not 100% loving where I am, so let me come down to DC, and got a job at a boutique firm, and I think that was really what I needed at the time. I went to a pretty small college, and getting that one-on-one experience was really, I think, what helped me grow. And I got that again at Wingate Hughes. And I was there for about 5.5, 6 years, and I had two amazing principals. I learned so much from them. I was able to grow from a staff designer to a project designer to senior project manager and designer. And, I remember they brought me on to help them launch a smaller studio within their firm. We called it Lightbox, and I'm sure majority of the DMV area and folks have heard about it. Spec suites were really large back then. I felt like I was the spec suite queen at one point, and then the industry changed, and it's fluctuating right now, but I loved it. I felt like there was, I needed a different route, and I wanted to see what else was out there, and I landed at OTJ for about a year. And again, I'm not going to say I felt like a number there, but, OTJ is a fairly large firm, and the pandemic was very different, and it was difficult to make those connections. And I had lunch with Aaron Pomeranz one day, and we were just kind of talking and, how I was feeling. And as much as I loved designing up until this last year, I knew that my path had changed, and I really enjoyed project managing. And, I through Aaron, I landed at Cushman, and I think it's been nothing but amazing. I'm still able to do a little bit of design work, and it's more high-level creative when I'm helping the leasing team with pitches and winning assets. And I've also still get to do what I love, the project managing side. And, I do work with tenants, and I also work with landlords. So I'm both on the occupier and investor side on the PDS team here. So that's how I got here. And I think it's just been how I was raised. I don't think it was one particular thing. I think it's just been the path and the journey I've been on, and it's a lot of what I want to do and where I want to be.
That is wow. That is such an awesome story. I was listening and I was writing down some notes. So if you saw me looking to the side here and just kind of noting, writing down some things, and you saw my pen kind of flying around here because you said so many important things there. I love it. I love when I interview people and I hear them talk about their parents and how, like myself, my dad was a military, of course, and he served this country. And of course, he was one that had stickler on time. He loved to be on time and he would always be early. And I remember as a kid, he used to work downtown in Washington, D.C. He would always leave home at early in the morning. He would get up so early in the morning and go to work. And I would always ask him, I was like, Dad, why do you get up so early? And why do you leave so early to go to work? He said, well, son, I like to get to work and get a cup of coffee and settle in and then start my day. But what I learned from him is a good work ethic about getting up early. And I found myself getting up early, going to work. And I heard you say that, as you begin to move through and pursue your career and work at different firms and things of that nature, what your dad taught you, what your parents, what your mom and dad taught you really was a benefit, was an asset for you as far as helping to work into you to work it in your work ethic on a day-to-day basis. I was thinking about when you work with the different companies and how you worked yourself up, you worked your way up into the area where you were starting to really utilize your skills. You didn't start at the top, but you worked your way to the top. And I always say that the process prepares you for the promise. And so you work through the process. And it's amazing to hear your story, how you came from where you went to school in New York. You came down to the southern part, to the DMV. Welcome down here to Washington, D.C. And you met your husband in the process of everything, which is so awesome. I wanted to ask you, Tulsi, with all of your experiences and all the things that you've experienced and the different companies that you've worked for, out of those experiences, which out of each one, if you can you remember some specific things that you would advise or advice you would give to a college student through your experiences coming out of college and working your way, not starting in the actual industry where you really wanted to be, but kind of working your way into the industry based on the way that the economy was and the way that the circumstances were with how it impacted the workforce. What would you say to a college student out of your experiences? What are some principles that you could kind of put to place and into words and give to other students that are trying to get into the field, into the work?
Paul, that's a great question. And I'm actually helping a graduate that's about to graduate from BSU. We tried to poach her last year at OTJ to come an intern for us, but unfortunately she already had another role, and she reached out to me earlier this year and she's like, hey, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm trying to find the right thing for me once I graduate. Is there, similar to what you asked, is there any advice that you could give? And I think my biggest takeaway from my experience is anything is a starting point, something, whatever you take on, it will help you in your future. You just have to have that open mindset. Again, when I started at Home Depot, I'm like, this can't be it. It's Home Depot. I went to college, I got a degree, but now I look back and I'm like, that was a big part, to where I got and the knowledge I gained from there. I think networking is a pretty big key. I know when I was at Wingate Hughes, I really did learn a lot there. Having two amazing principals with two very different outlooks, I was able to make sure that I raised my hand and asked all the questions. Some feel a little hesitant on asking questions. They try to go venture off on their own and figure it out on their own, which is great. You need to do that. No one's going to hand you everything. But there are moments in your life where it's just like, okay, I've tried and I'm not finding it. And at that point, I was a billable person, so not only am I trying to figure it out for myself, but now I have to think about the client's money, right? Like I don't want to say wasting, but I'm draining a little bit of it. So there were times where I'm like, okay, I just got to walk away and take a break, or I got to walk away and raise my hand and ask for some help. And I hope people aren't afraid to ask for help, because that was a big challenge for me. I'm a determined, ambitious person, and I'm like, I can do it all. And they had to sit down with me and it's like, Tulsi, it's okay. We're here to help you through the process. And I think that was amazing, having two individuals that helped you, and that were by your side. Another thing I learned there was networking. All the relationships.
Love that.
Yeah, all the relationships I have made, I use them in my current role. All of those past relationships are reaching out, like, Tulsi, let's grab lunch. Like, let's see how we can continue to work together. It's a different side of the industry, and I love that. I just went to an event, the Spy Museum, and not only did I get to see all of the old vendors I've worked with, but I got to see a lot of my previous colleagues, and we've all grown and moved forward, and we're all at different parts in our lives, and we're all so happy. But that place we were together, it brought back such good feelings, and to see how things can change.
Wow. Awesome. The one thing you said, which I love to do, is network. I love networking. And it sounds like one of the things that you're able to do with the place and where you are now, at a very successful place, and you've accomplished a tremendous amount. And I love it because I hear the strength. I'm saying, I've been saying this for the last couple of months. I told my wife this. I said, Lynn, this seems to be the hour for the woman. I mean, the strength and the success, and how women are really moving to a place where women are winners. They are at a place now where it's your season. And I'm an encourager of people that are pursuing and reaching for their goals, and being able to accomplish their goals. And not only that, but being able to reach back and find someone that kind of reminds you of you before you became who you have become today, or reminds you of you becoming who you are today, the becoming you kind of person. It sounds like you're able to reach back and help a college student, or help a person who's actually making that transition. And believe it or not, Tulsi, that is what helps people get through the process. And I would say this, that who is it, when you look back through the hallway of your process, and you think about that, the hallway is like a picture up here on the wall, who would you say was on the hallway of your process that you look to as a point of reference to kind of give you that strength, to help you to keep pressing and persevering while you was at the Home Depot, knowing that I have an education and I know where I want to be? But who was it that you kind of thought about, or some of the things that they might have said to you as a young woman coming up and growing up and going through that process?
I really think that the answer is still my dad. Him and my mom, they came from India to give their kids a better life. Me and my brother, we were born and raised here, and we came from a middle class family. But I remember, like, my men, right? Like, they don't cook. My dad absolutely loved cooking. So my mom made dinner sometimes, my dad made dinner sometimes. My dad wanted to pursue a career in culinary. We lived in Rhode Island. Johnson and Wales is the best school for that. He started he started taking classes after, he would come home from work, he would go on campus. And I remember, he would be exhausted, but he was doing it not only for himself, but to show us and provide for us. And, then my grandmother got sick, so he took a break. And then he went back. And then my grandfather got sick and he took a break. And then he went back. And then I think at that time, he just kind of was like burnt out, and he was at a different place. And, he was like, okay, this was a dream and it's just not going to work. And I took that and I was like, okay, he pushed me to go as far as I could. He didn't give me boundaries of, we're Indian, you have to be a business owner, or you have to be a doctor, or you have to go be this. He gave me that freedom, and this was a path I chose. So there was no stopping, and that's why I think that pivotal moment in my sophomore year was a big moment. I had the opportunity to make a change, but this was my passion. And, again, I am here because of what he would continuously say to me. And one thing he would say, which I ended up getting tattooed. I don't know how appropriate that is, but I lived. He would say everything happened for a reason, and I truly lived by that growing up, and it still resonates with me. You know, anything can happen, but this was meant for you, and it's only you're going to get through it one way or another,
Mhm.
or not. But yeah, that I live by that, and that's really because of him.
You know, I listen to you and I can just see the strength in you as a woman. And, you know, I was just thinking that when you were talking, and hopefully those who are watching that will hear this, is that there's a saying that I have: when you find out what works, it will activate everything else that will work.
Mhm.
And going through the process, you're trying different things. You have the pros and the cons, the ups and the downs, ins and the outs, you know. But when you get to that place of success, all those ups and downs turn into a crown that you place on your head. And you're at the place of success, and you're crowned with the endorsements, you're crowned with the promotions, you're crowned with the advancements, you're crowned with the opportunities, and you're crowned with the network.
It's funny that you have said the word crown so many times, and this is something that no one knows about me besides Aaron. Is that I have maybe I'm trying to work away from it, but I have this title, Princess Tulsi. So you're
Oh,
absolutely right. I do have this crown, and I
wow.
wear it. I wear it every day
Wow.
for a different day. But yeah, you kind of nailed it there.
I had no idea. My goodness. Wow. Princess Tulsi. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a princess on the line. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. And it's so encouraging, Tulsi. So encouraging. Um, I hate to bring this to a close. Like I told you this is a platform where it's celebrating you and the success that is you've been able to accomplish through what it is that you're doing in the workplace. And I'm excited to hear, and congratulations. Also, you said it's 5 years of marriage. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, this July we're coming up on 5.
Woo, 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 woo. Congratulations on that. And so as we close today, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an awesome time, Tulsi, spending with you on the Language of Life podcast. So before I ask the final question, I want to ask you this question: would you be willing to come back again and do a part two of this interview with us on the Language of Life?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard it. We have heard it. And what I want to do, Tulsi, is I want to have several other ladies on here too, because of the accomplishments that are taking place there with what we're doing, and we're going to have kind of like a roundtable kind of podcast kind of discussion to let the ladies really share some very PowerPoint information that will help people with thought and give direction as well. And you're one of those women that are very successful and focused and willing to really step out and take some chances, but yet be able to capitalize on that and give direction to a lot of people. But as we close today, I always love my college students, college kids, and making a decision. I had one gentleman on one of my shows earlier, and he talked about, and this kind of really made an impact on me to really ask this question. He was at the last stage of his life where he just graduated from college, and he was getting ready to leave the dorm. He was about to go back home. He had a job set up there, but it wasn't the job. It was a job where he would keep working and stay and keeping his skills sharp. But he got a call. He got a call. And that call changed his life, pointed him in the direction of where he wanted to go. So with you at the place to where you are now, and they're college students that are about to graduate, maybe some are entering into college, maybe some are changing their major. What would you tell a college student now who needs to get that intern experience or hasn't gotten the job, not sure whether they're going to get the job that they always wanted? What advice would you give them at this point?
Um, I I would say stay hopeful. I know times can get discouraging. I was there. I was there myself, and I know I've gone through that. I think I wish I had a little bit more mentorship and guidance. And I've been exposed to that world. And, I'm taking a social media break, and I've replaced that little app with LinkedIn. And I'm using LinkedIn to kind of learn a little bit more about, the industry that I'm in, because it is a little bit different from where I came from, and reaching out and even just, I don't want to say networking, but reaching out and getting to know some other players in the industry, and figuring out how, one, not only can we collaborate, but how we can elevate each other. So to the graduate students that are looking for something, and you haven't found it, LinkedIn is a place that you can search as if it's Google, as if it's Instagram. Search for what you're looking for, and don't be scared to reach out. That is a great place to make connections. That's a great place to be like, hey, can we grab coffee? I'm graduating, and I need some mentorship. I think a lot of individuals may feel scared, but then on our end, we are here to help. We want to elevate you. We've all been in your place at one point or another. So don't get discouraged. Everything happens for a reason, and you will find your place. And it may take time.
Wow.
But you will get there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't have said it any better. That's the closing point. Keep hope alive. Stay focused and don't give up. Just like Tulsi said, stay focused and don't give up, and stay connected and build a good network of people around you. Well, that's all we have time for today. Tulsi, thank you once again. Thank you so much. You're going to be a regular on this show, and you may need to bring your husband on with you one time when you come back here, just to talk about that as well. That's just an idea. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, now you'll be able to see this on LinkedIn. I'm glad you said it, Tulsi, about LinkedIn. This will be posted on LinkedIn and on other platforms as well. Share this show. Tulsi Patel, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and sitting down and talk with me on the Language of Life podcast. This was very inspiring. I feel so fortunate to just have this opportunity to interview you and to talk with you, and then for you willing to come back again and be a part of this show again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Language of Life podcast. We will see you next time. And remember, making a difference starts here. See you next time. Bye now.